An 11-year-old girl who had never been able to see her own face clearly visited a shrine of the Virgin Mary. What happened in the following weeks changed everything. A miracle of the Virgin Mary that began with an impossible promise. But before we continue, leave a comment saying where you're watching from and what time it is there right now. I'd love to see how far the miracles of the Virgin Mary are reaching. You know that girl who always sits in the front row of the classroom? The one who needs to get close to everything to be able to see? Stephanie was like that. 11 years old, she lived in Portland with her mother, Elise. Stephanie wore special glasses. They were thick, heavy. Even so, the world to her was always kind of blurry. Colors seemed gray. People's faces were blurs. She had never been able to see the stars in the sky. Never saw a bird truly flying. At school, Stephanie had a special tablet. The teacher would write on the board, but Stephanie couldn't see anything from there. The tablet showed everything large, with enormous black letters on a very bright white background. That was her way of following the class. On her phone, the same thing. Giant font, high contrast, everything black on white. Even so, she needed to bring her phone very close to her face. Sometimes her head would hurt from so much effort. Stephanie's mother, Elise, was a university professor, a calm, patient woman. She always helped Stephanie with everything. Choosing clothes, crossing busy streets. Stephanie depended on her mother for so many things. But there's one thing Stephanie never did, something you've probably done 1,000 times in your life. She never truly saw herself in the mirror. Stephanie knew she had brown hair. She knew she had brown eyes. But she never saw her own face clearly. When she looked in the mirror, she only saw a blur, a smudge that moved when she moved her head. Can you imagine? Spending 11 years without ever seeing your own face? The doctor said Stephanie's vision wasn't going to improve. It was a condition she'd had since she was a baby. Doctors said it could worsen over time. Stephanie had already undergone several treatments. Nothing worked. The doctors were clear. She was going to live like this forever. Stephanie had already accepted it. It was all she knew. But from time to time, she wondered what it would be like to see the colors of the sky, to see her mother smile with clarity. Elise believed in God, believed in the Virgin Mary. She had a small image of the Virgin Mary in her room. Sometimes she would pray quietly. But she never forced Stephanie to pray or believe in anything. So it was a surprise when one Saturday morning, Elise came into Stephanie's room with a strange proposal. "Honey, I'd like to take a trip with you today," Elise said. Stephanie was on her phone. "Trip to where?" Stephanie asked. "To Washington. There's a shrine there I'd like to visit," Elise replied. Stephanie frowned. Washington was about 3 hours away by car. "Shrine? Like a church?" Stephanie asked. "It's a place dedicated to the Virgin Mary. It's important to me, honey," Elise said with a gentle voice. Stephanie didn't want to go. She had plans to stay home, talk with her friends. But when she looked at the blur that was her mother's face, she noticed something in her voice, a hope, a silent request. "Okay, Mom, we'll go," Stephanie said. It wasn't because of faith. Stephanie didn't believe in anything. She was going because she loved her mother. Simple as that. They got in the car. Elise drove while Stephanie sat in the passenger seat, looking out the window. Everything she saw were blurred shapes. Trees looked like green smudges. Cars were colored blurs passing quickly. The sky was a light blue thing without definition. "Are you okay, honey?" Elise asked after an hour of travel. "Yes, Mom, just tired," Stephanie replied. But it wasn't tiredness. It was that feeling of doing something that didn't make sense. A 3-hour trip for what? To stand in a place praying. Stephanie didn't understand, but she didn't say anything. She let her mother be happy. When they arrived, Stephanie saw silhouettes of other people. She saw a large blurred building. Elise took her hand, and they went inside. The shrine was silent. Stephanie heard footsteps echoing. She heard whispers of prayers. She smelled a different scent in the air. She didn't know what it was. Incense, maybe. "Come, honey, I'll take you to the image," Elise said. Stephanie followed her mother. She felt people looking, or at least she thought they were looking. With her vision, it was hard to know. They stopped in front of something. Stephanie strained her eyes. She saw a figure, a blue and white shape. It must be the image of the Virgin Mary. "You can touch it if you want," Elise said. Stephanie didn't want to, but she extended her hand anyway. She touched something cold. Stone, probably, or plaster. She didn't know. And then something strange happened. Her hands got warm. It was quick. A warmth that came out of nowhere. It wasn't fever warmth. It was different, like someone had held her hands with warm hands. But there was nobody touching her. Stephanie looked to the side. Her mother was there, but with hands clasped together, praying. The warmth disappeared as quickly as it came. Then Stephanie smelled something. Roses. A strong smell of fresh roses. She looked around, trying to see. She didn't see flowers. There were no roses there. Where was that smell coming from? "Mom, are you smelling roses?" Stephanie asked quietly. "No, honey. Why?" Elise replied. Stephanie didn't answer. Must be my imagination, she thought. They stayed a few more minutes. Elise prayed. Stephanie stood there, waiting. When they left, Stephanie breathed with relief. "There. Happy now?" Stephanie said when they got in the car. Elise smiled, a sad but grateful smile. "Thank you for coming with me, honey," Elise said. The trip back was silent. Stephanie slept in the car. When she woke up, they were already in Portland again. Everything went back to normal. School on Monday, tablet, phone. Heavy glasses. Blurred world. Stephanie forgot about the shrine, forgot about the warmth in her hands and the smell of roses. Life went on. A week later, Stephanie was in her room doing homework on her phone. Giant font, as always. High contrast. She was reading a history text when she noticed something. The letters were sharper. Stephanie blinked, looked again. It wasn't her imagination. The letters seemed more defined, less blurred. She could see the details of each letter without straining her eyes so much. Curious, she went into her phone settings. She decreased the font a little. Just a little. She tried to read. She could. She decreased it a bit more. She could again. "How strange," Stephanie murmured. Stephanie didn't tell anyone. She was afraid of creating expectations and discovering it was just her imagination, or tiredness, or anything else. In the following days, she tested alone, in her room. She would look at things and try to see details. The poster on the wall that had always been a colored blur. Now she could see some shapes. The alarm clock on the bedside table. She could see the numbers even from far away. The colors were also different. Less gray, more vibrant. Stephanie was confused and a little scared. 2 weeks after the shrine, something happened at school. The teacher was giving a math class. She was writing on the board, explaining the exercises. Stephanie looked at her tablet like she always did, but that day, for some reason, she raised her eyes to the board. And she could read. She managed to read a few words, not everything, but she could. Stephanie looked at her tablet, then back at the board, blinked several times. She could still see. Her classmate, Maya, noticed. "You're reading from the board?" Maya asked quietly. "I think so," Stephanie answered, confused. "Really? But you never could before," Maya said. Stephanie didn't know what to say. When class ended, she grabbed her backpack and left quickly. She needed to go home. She needed to understand what was happening. Elise was waiting in the car. "So how was class?" Elise asked. "Mom, something strange happened," Stephanie said, getting in the car. "What?" Elise asked. "I managed to read the board today for the first time," Stephanie said. Elise stopped driving for a second, looked at her daughter. "Are you sure?" Elise asked. "I am. And there's more. For a few days now, I've been noticing I'm seeing better. On my phone, things at home, Stephanie said. Why didn't you tell me before? Elise asked. I thought it was my imagination, but today at school, it wasn't my imagination, Mom, Stephanie responded. When they got home, Stephanie went to the bathroom, stood in front of the mirror, took a deep breath and looked. She saw her face, really saw it. For the first time, her brown eyes. The freckles she didn't even know she had, the shape of her nose, everything. Mom, Stephanie called out, her voice shaking. Elise came running. What is it? Elise asked. Stephanie pointed at the mirror, tears in her eyes. I'm seeing myself, Mom. I'm seeing my face, Stephanie said. Elise entered the bathroom, looked at her daughter, saw the tears, saw the smile in the midst of the crying. You really can? Elise asked, emotional. I can. I'm seeing everything. The freckles, the eyes, everything, Stephanie said, touching her own face. Elise hugged her daughter. They both cried there, standing in front of the mirror. When they calmed down, they went to the living room to talk, Stephanie told her, about the phone, about the font, about the board at school, about everything she'd noticed in recent weeks. I don't understand, Mom. How is this possible? Stephanie asked. I don't know, honey, but we need to take you to the doctor. See what's happening, Elise said. Do you think it was that place? The sanctuary? Stephanie asked, afraid of the answer. Elise held her daughter's hands. I don't know, but something is happening, and we're going to find out what, Elise responded. The medical appointment was scheduled for 2 weeks later. It was a routine checkup that had been scheduled months ago. Stephanie and Elise decided to wait. During those 2 weeks, Stephanie's vision continued improving, not overnight. It was gradual, but every day she noticed something new. She could see leaves on trees. She could see people's faces on the street. She could see clouds in the sky. One day, Stephanie looked out the window and saw a bird. Not a dark blur flying. She saw the wings, saw the colors, saw the beak. She spent 10 minutes watching that bird, fascinated. Mom, come see, there's a bird here, Stephanie shouted. Elise came running. When she saw her daughter's expression, the way she was looking out the window, Elise cried again. It's beautiful, isn't it? Elise said. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life, Stephanie responded without taking her eyes off the bird. When the day of the appointment came, Stephanie was nervous. The doctor was the same one who'd been treating her since she was young, Dr. Stevens. He knew her condition, knew the whole story. Stephanie entered the office with Elise. Did the eye exams, the same exam she took every year, but this time was different. She could read letters she'd never been able to before. She could see colors she'd never seen. She could identify shapes that had always been impossible. Dr. Stevens fell silent. He looked at the results, looked again, got Stephanie's old exams, compared them, looked once more. This is very unusual, Dr. Stevens finally said. What do you mean? Elise asked. Her vision has improved. Significantly, the doctor responded. But how? Stephanie asked. Dr. Stevens took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. He seemed tired or confused, or both. I can't explain it. Sometimes the human body responds in ways we don't understand, he said. But she's always had a degenerative condition. You yourself said it wouldn't improve, Elise said. I know what I said. But the exams don't lie. Her vision has improved, Dr. Stevens responded. So it's a miracle? Stephanie asked quietly. The doctor looked at her, hesitated, chose his words carefully. I don't use that word in my work, Stephanie, but I also can't explain what happened to you. Keep doing follow-ups. We'll monitor this improvement, he said. When they left the office, Stephanie stayed silent in the car. What are you thinking about, honey? Elise asked. That visit to the sanctuary, the warmth in my hands, the smell of roses. Do you think it was real? Stephanie asked. Elise stopped the car in a parking lot, turned to look at her daughter. Really look. And for the first time, Stephanie could see her mother's eyes clearly, saw the tears forming. I don't know, honey. I don't know, but something happened. Something we can't explain, Elise said. I always thought it was nonsense. Faith, miracles, those things. I thought it was stuff for people who need to believe in something, Stephanie said. And now, what do you think? Elise asked. Stephanie looked at her own hands, remembered the warmth, remembered the roses. Now I don't know anymore. I don't know what I believe, but I know something changed, and I'm grateful. Whatever it was, I'm grateful, Stephanie responded. The following months were full of discoveries. Stephanie's vision continued improving. It didn't become perfect. She still needed glasses, but they were normal glasses now. Light, thin, not those heavy, thick glasses from before. She could read books. Real books, with normal font. She could watch movies and see the details. She could walk on the street alone. She could see the stars in the sky at night. All those things that seem simple to you, all those things you do without thinking. For Stephanie, they were daily miracles. At school, she no longer needed the adapted tablet. She sat in the middle of the classroom like the other students, read the board, saw the teacher, saw her classmates. Maya, her classmate, became her best friend. You're like a walking miracle, Maya said one day. Don't say that. It's weird, Stephanie responded, laughing. But it's true. Everyone at school is talking about it. The girl who couldn't see and now can, Maya said. I still don't see perfectly, but it's much better, Stephanie said. Do you think it was God or the Virgin Mary? Maya asked, curious. Stephanie thought before answering. I don't know. Before I would have said no, that it was just luck or whatever. But now I think there are things we can't explain. And it's okay not to be able to explain them, Stephanie responded. 6 months after the sanctuary, Stephanie asked her mother for something. Mom, I want to go back there. To the sanctuary, Stephanie said. Elise looked at her daughter, surprised. Are you sure? Elise asked. I am. I need to go back, Stephanie responded. They made the same trip. 3 hours driving to Washington. But this time was different. This time Stephanie saw everything. Saw the trees with all their leaves. Saw the cars with all their details. Saw the blue sky with white clouds. Mom, it's so beautiful, Stephanie said, looking out the window. What is, honey? Elise asked. Everything, the whole world. I never imagined it would be so beautiful, Stephanie responded. When they arrived at the sanctuary, Stephanie got out of the car slowly, looked at the building, saw every detail, the doors, the windows, the colors. They went inside. Stephanie saw everything she hadn't seen before, saw the people praying, saw the wooden benches, saw the lit candles, and saw the image of the Virgin Mary. It was no longer a blue and white blur. It was a beautiful image, detailed, with a blue mantle and a white dress, with a serene face and gentle eyes. Stephanie walked up to the image, extended her hand, touched it. It was cold stone, like she had felt before, but this time she could see what she was touching. Thank you, Stephanie whispered. She wasn't sure if she was thanking the Virgin Mary or God or whatever it was, but she needed to give thanks. She needed to speak that word out loud. Thank you, she repeated. Elise was behind her, crying silently. Stephanie turned and hugged her mother. They stayed there embracing for a while, in the silence of the sanctuary, surrounded by other people who were also there seeking something, faith, hope, miracles. When they returned home, Stephanie was different. It's not that she became a super religious person. She didn't start going to church every Sunday or praying the rosary every day. But she became open to the possibility that there are things greater than us, things we can't see or touch or explain. And every time she looked in the mirror and saw her own face, she remembered the day she couldn't see, remembered the sanctuary, remembered the warmth and the roses. And she was grateful. Life went on. Stephanie grew up, made more friends, got her driver's license when she turned 16. Something the doctors had said would be impossible, everything she never imagined she could do. And in all those moments, In all those small and large achievements, she remembered the 11-year-old girl who couldn't see her own face, remembered the trip to the sanctuary, remembered the moment at the mirror. Stephanie never knew how to explain what happened. The doctors never knew. Nobody knew. It was one of those mysteries that have no answer. But for Stephanie, the answer didn't matter anymore. What mattered is that she could see. She could see the world. She could see the people she loved. She could see life happening around her, and whether this was a miracle or not. Stephanie decided she didn't need to know. She decided to simply be grateful, because in the end, maybe that's what faith really is, not being certain of everything. Not knowing all the answers, but being grateful anyway, believing there's something greater than us, even without being able to prove it. Stephanie learned this at 11 years old on a 3-hour trip in a silent sanctuary, with warm hands and the smell of roses, and every time she tells this story, every time someone asks, "But was it really a miracle?" she answers the same thing. I can't explain what happened, but I know I'm no longer alone in the darkness. Before closing, I want to extend a special invitation to you. Come join our prayer community for the Virgin Mary with people from around the world who unite in faith and hope. If you feel in your heart the desire to enter this chain of prayer, click below, become a member of the channel, and come pray with us. And look, if you made it this far, to the end of Stephanie's story, do something for me. Write in the comments, "I see," the 2 words that changed everything for her. I want to see how many hearts this story truly reached. And every time I read, "I see" in the comments, I'll know that one more person believes that miracles still happen. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Write in the comments about some miracle you've witnessed or experienced, and share this video with someone who needs to renew their hope today. May the Virgin Mary continue blessing and protecting you and your family. Amen.